Hello everyone, my name's Catherine, and the title of my talk today is Bridging the Familiarity Gap, How to Tackle Homophobia. I'd like to start with a couple of mysteries for you though. How can the behaviour of a dog, in fact this dog, and a television romance between two septuagenarians have clues about how to tackle homophobia? And also, how is a raging river relevant to the story? So that's something to think about. But I'd like to begin by looking at the problems caused by homophobia against women. There was a national survey done in 2008 by Stonewall. Over 6,000 women took part. And the focus of the study was to look at not only the general health of this group of women, but also their experiences of the National Health Service. And it was the biggest survey ever of its kind outside the US, 6,000 lesbian and bisexual women. So in terms of general health, it found that there wasn't much difference between the health of lesbian and bisexual women and women generally. But it found that there were much higher levels of drug and alcohol abuse and also mental health issues. So we're going to concentrate on those mental health issues and zoom in on young women in particular, i.e. those under 20. What the report showed was that there was very high levels of self-harm amongst lesbian and bisexual teenagers. The national rate for all teenagers is 7%. That's 7% of all teenagers have self-harmed in the previous year. Now, that's quite a shocking figure in itself. But compare that to lesbian and bisexual women, the figure is 53%. A staggering 53% of lesbian and bisexual teenagers have self-harmed not during their lives, but in the previous year. The figures on attempted suicide are just as shocking. The charity Childline estimate that the figure for attempted suicide for all teenagers is well under 1%. But the figure for lesbian and bisexual teenagers is 16%. And that's about 1 in 6. When I read these figures, I felt a chill going down my spine, and I determined to try and disseminate this information to as wide an audience as I possibly can. That's why I'm here today. I think they show the profound effects of homophobia, marginalisation, and also invisibility. You remember the Queen Victoria quote about lesbians don't exist? Well, have things changed a lot since then? The report in 2008 received little or no press coverage at the time, which is ironic, really, because a report showing the effects of invisibility was itself invisible. My own personal experience of coming out was that it was a difficult and somewhat traumatic experience. I grew up in rural England with a father that was very right-wing, ex-Navy, very traditional, and he was so homophobic that he wouldn't let a gay visitor even set foot in our house. I had no one to talk to, I had no role models at all. Any representation on television, radio, other media was negative. I was full of fear and self-doubt. When I was 18, I confided in my closest friend, who promptly dropped me like a stone. But I was lucky enough to go to Warwick University, that was very political, strong women's groups, strong gay groups, and I finally came out. And the whole process took something like 5 years. And since then, I've been very fortunate. I've lived a life largely without any homophobia. I've been with my partner now over 20 years, and we had our civil partnership last year. But being so fortunate, I feel an ever-present duty to try and be a positive role model to others. And I'm aware that my life would be very different if I didn't have a supportive circle of family and friends, if I didn't live in Hampstead, and I didn't work in a socially progressive environment like a university, especially this university, UCL. I have a total of 10 nieces, nephews, and godchildren. A slightly controversial view, I don't want any of them to be gay. Why not? Because I don't want them to go through what I went through as a teenager. I don't want them to have a minute or a second of self-doubt that it's okay to be who they are. I'd like to be able to say that their generation, for their generation, things have got a lot better. But I'm not sure, looking at all these figures, whether they actually have. There's a massive problem in this country with homophobic bullying in schools. Stonewall did a study in 2012, yes, showing that 40% of gay pupils had suffered from homophobic bullying. And again in 2012, there were 5,000 homophobic hate crimes. That's about 100 a week. So the process of coming out is not easy. And to my mind, it's a little bit like crossing a river. You begin your journey. You're terrified both of the water and by what lies ahead on the other side. You swim as strongly as you can and try and hold on to the belief that you will make it. Rocks appear from nowhere and hurt you. You may find that the struggle becomes too much, you become tired, and you feel you can't struggle anymore. You may even feel that you want to give yourself up to the river. Some may feel that they want to turn back to a place that, although not right for them, is a place where they feel safe. But most of all, most of us, certainly not all of us, do make it to the other side. And we may arrive battered, bruised, exhausted. We don't know how safe that side of the river is. But what we do know is that we can start to live our lives as our authentic selves. So the vital question is, how do we tackle homophobia? I think what we need to do is we need to try and understand it. What is it? Try and get under its skin before we can tackle it. So what is homophobia? Well, phobia, as we know, means fear of. Think of agoraphobia, fear of going outside. But this is no ordinary fear. This is a kind of extreme fear, the kind of fear that leads to hate crimes. So how do we tackle that fear? Well, we need to do what I call bridge the familiarity gap. And the best way to explain that is by giving an example. So, meet George. George is my dog. He's a handsome devil. One day, when he was young, we were out walking, and he started barking furiously at a man coming towards us. I apologized and pulled him away and wondered what on earth it was that he was barking at. And I got home and I thought about it, and I thought, well, the only difference between this man and all the other people he's seen was that this man was black. I felt absolutely mortified. After all the discrimination cases that I've ever done, fighting sexism, racism, every other ism, I now seem to have a racist dog. So, needless to say, he'd learned his lesson, and the next time he saw a black person, he was fine, and from then on, he was fine. Thank goodness. So then I thought, well, can a dog be racist? And the answer to that is, well, he can't use offensive language. He can't prejudge. He can't use negative stereotyping. He's a dog. But what he was really saying with his ferocious barking was, you're different to me. I've never seen anyone like you before. I'm scared of you. You are outside my familiarity zone. So how do we bridge this gap, the familiarity gap? Well, what we need to do is we need to address the question of visibility or invisibility. Remember the Queen Victoria quote. You can't have familiarity without visibility. The two don't match. So what we need is lots of positive role models on television, other media, all walks of life. There was a study done, talking of invisibility, there was a study done again by Stonewall in 2006 showing that for every gay reference on television, they were 5 times more likely to portray it negatively as positively. And of all the references, only 18% were to lesbians as opposed to gay men. But one recent programme has been making a positive contribution to this, and it's the BBC Bafta-winning programme Last Tango in Halifax. I don't know if any of you have watched it, by Sally Wainwright. And in this, one character, Caroline, is a head teacher whose marriage is ending and who starts a relationship with a female colleague. It's very sensitively and positively portrayed, and the show has been massively popular. A quarter of the entire population watched the end of the last series. Caroline is played by the popular and immensely talented Sarah Lancashire, who in a recent interview said that she'd never received so much fan mail as she has for this show. People have stopped her in the street and said, thanks. She said one fan told her that she sat her mum down, made her watch the entire series, and then came out to her. So that is, if that's not bridging the familiarity gap, I'm not sure what is. Sexuality is immaterial, she said. Love is love. So I think television and other media have a huge responsibility, and having got it wrong for so long, need to start getting it right. I'd argue that this kind of show does as much to tackle homophobia as the introduction of new laws. And it doesn't hurt, of course, that Sarah Lancashire is very easy to fall in love with. She really is. A ravishing creature. She's that one, by the way. So, just to finish, when I'm in my dotage, sitting in my bath chair, with more programs like this, who knows, homophobia may be a thing of the past. And I'd like to be able to say to the next generation in my family, the teenage children of my nieces, nephews, and godchildren, that I won't worry about them if they're gay. The river is calm now. The other side is safe. You can cross. Thank you very much.